Welcome everyone. I can see people have tuned in already. Welcome to New Conservative Live, where we go live every Friday night with different guest speakers, talking about anything around politics and also ensuring that you, audience out there, get your voice. So it's really good to see already that we've got people out there. We appreciate you joining us and look forward to your comments. We'll put them up on the screen throughout the 1 hour. We're here from 7:30 until 8:30. So after we've had a chat, we will put your comments up in your comments. So feel free to throw them up whenever you like. Where are we? So tonight, as you can see, I'm Helen Houghton, co-leader of New Conservative, and we have Dieuwe Boer who's joining us. Actually, I might just get you, Dieuwe, to just say a few words about why you have chosen New Conservative. I think you were around before my time, and then we'll kick off on what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, hello everyone, and thank you, Helen, for having me on the show here. It's great to be here, and yeah, I've been part of New Conservative since before the last election. It was 2019, when the Labour government passed the Abortion Legislation Act. That was sort of the trigger point for me to join New Conservative. I'd been around in political circles for a long time before then, but that was really the moment that spurred me to action. To say, what the government is doing is something that we have to take action against, and just sitting on the sidelines is not good enough. And that's when I joined the party. I was looking at being the candidate in Takanini, but I ended up as the candidate in Botany last time. So I'm likely going to be the Takanini candidate this time here in South Auckland. And it's been great to be part of the party, to have had the opportunity to be involved at this level for so many years. I started in politics, basically blogging commentary. I've run the Right Minds NZ website since 2016. I have been a columnist at the BFD, which is New Zealand's largest right-wing news site for I've been a columnist there since the beginning of this year. I think I wrote for them, or they shared my work for many years before that as well. That's really the summary or the introduction to my political involvement here. I'm married to Amy, and maybe she'll show up in the chat later. And we've got 3 kids together. We live in South Auckland, as I've said before. And my family actually immigrated to New Zealand from the Netherlands in 2002. So I've been here in New Zealand for most of my life. It's just love the country, and that's why I'm fighting in politics as well. I think the country's worth fighting for, and I'm very proud of it.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that, Dieuwe. Gosh, 2002, and most of your life, I'm thinking, you're not that old, really, are you? So it's great to have a young man on. It's great to have a young man on a Conservative party, as well as the fact that you're on the board, and what an asset. So we're really grateful to have you around. We don't want you going too far away. Now, we're going to kick straight into it, and I'll start with this. We all remember the single source of truth. However, we know that there are many sources of information, and it can make it difficult to trust or know what to believe. So reality is there is a degree of caution, but it's not a new concept. So as an educator, for those out there who don't know, I've been teaching for almost 20 years. We have talked about this to our students for the past few decades, and most of our young people can figure out technology better and are more equipped than many adults. So this is not something new, that there's a lot of things that aren't right online, let's say. I'm going to just mention this quote quickly, Dieuwe, that might be relevant when we think about our students and our young people being equipped to know about the abundance of information that they have access to. So this is the quote: "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." Now, if anyone in the audience can throw up who actually said that, fantastic. We'll have a look later. But when you look at that, it's really important when we are teaching our students that we're not censoring everything. We're teaching them around all different views as well, and that we can disagree, have respectful, robust debate about things. And clearly the audience might now know where I'm going with this around speech. Okay, and there's a few items that tonight I wanted to talk to Dieuwe about, but I thought it would be really good to touch on something that just came out yesterday. I've been trawling through a 90-page document just in the last 2 hours because I only just found out about it due to many meetings that I'm in. However, many of the viewers also may not know about this, Dieuwe. So I'd like to start here with you. But before we do that, let's watch this little clip, because if it wasn't so in our face right now as a reality, this would actually be laughable. So if the audience can just bear with me while I share my screen. Where are we? Share screen. Present. Share screen. About enjoying technology. Here we go. And share. So this only goes for about 2 minutes. You listen up.
55 Mercer Road were these: walking on the cracks in the pavement, walking in a loud shirt in a built-up area during the hours of darkness, and one of my favorites, walking around all over the place. He was also arrested for urinating in a public convenience and looking at me in a funny way. Who would have thought that we would end up with a law that would allow life to imitate art so exactly? I read somewhere a defender of the status quo claiming that the fact that the gay horse case was dropped after the arrested man refused to pay the fine, and that the Scientology case was also dropped at some point during the court process, was proof that the law was working well, ignoring the fact that the only reason these cases were dropped was because of the publicity that they had attracted. The police sensed that ridicule was just around the corner and withdrew their actions. But what about the thousands of other cases that did not enjoy the oxygen of publicity, that weren't quite ludicrous enough to attract media attention? Even for those actions that were withdrawn, people were arrested, questioned, taken to court, and then released. You know, that isn't a law working properly. That is censoriousness of the most intimidating kind, guaranteed to have, as Lord Deer says, a chilling effect on free expression and free protest. Parliament's Joint Committee on Human Rights summarized, as you may know, this whole issue very well by saying, while arresting a protester for using threatening or abusive speech may, depending on the circumstances, be a proportionate response, we do not think that language or behavior that is merely insulting should ever be criminalized in this way. The clear problem with the outlawing of insult is that too many things can be interpreted as such. Criticism is easily construed as insult by certain parties. Ridicule easily construed as insult. Sarcasm, unfavorable comparison, merely stating an alternative point of view to the orthodoxy can be interpreted as insult. And because so many things can be interpreted as insult, it is hardly surprising that so many things have been, as the examples.
Okay, fairly sure that that's probably enough of that. Some of you may have seen Mr. Bean with that one. Have you seen that before, Dieuwe?
No, I hadn't actually seen that particular clip before. It spoke to me quite a bit because I've actually just been in court 2 weeks ago fighting a civil case against the New Zealand police. And they raided my house in 2020 in January. And they did so because I had protested against the firearms legislation that was passed the previous year. And I had made a submission to the select committee. I had complained online saying, you know, how this is outrageous. How are they only giving us 48 hours to submit on this legislation? It's unnecessary. Here's all of these problems with it. And I used a firearm that I had at the time as an example to say, hey, here's a lever action, cowboy gun, almost, you would say, a glorified toy, useful for shooting rabbits with a bit of target practice. And I said, this will be caught up in this legislation. It'll have to be modified, or it'll have whatever, and it will need to happen to it. We didn't even know at the time. And I had made that submission against Parliament. And then I find out that 6 months later, somebody goes and makes an anonymous complaint to the police based on this to say that I was dissatisfied with this legislation, and they needed to go and check up on me to see if I was going to be following the legislation. And they decided to go and raid my house with no evidence. I hadn't broken the law. And I was in court just 2 weeks ago with my lawyer arguing about the chilling effect of the police, running over the democratic process, and that having a chilling effect by saying people can't complain about legislation without being harassed by the police. What kind of society is this? So when we talk about free speech, actually, is probably and with relation to the police and the way that Rowan Atkinson was there, it really is a case where the values that the police have are completely warped. They should be promoting good, and they should be actually looking at people in such a way that they're thinking, are we just chasing law-abiding citizens? Are we just harassing people because of their political beliefs, because they're easy to go after? Real criminals are difficult to go after. Let's just go and harass. Let's go and harass people who we can easily harass because it's just our job. So there really has to be that case where police are dealing from a good faith, a place of good faith, and a place of positive values, rather than just running roughshod over people because they can.
Yeah, good. Thanks for sharing that. Now, I noticed that there's some comments around joining parties. We'll touch on that a little bit later, people. I just want to continue with the thread that we're on right now before we go into those things, but we welcome your comments, and Dieuwe will be able to help me answer those shortly. I just first want to continue with this 90-page document that I've just, somebody shared it with me today, so I've been trawling through it. And the proposal aims to establish a new industry. Hold on. Oh, sorry. So yesterday, the Department of Internal Affairs released a proposal for a new way to regulate social media and traditional media platforms, right? Okay, the proposal aims to establish a new industry regulatory body, independent apparently from the government, that will control what can and cannot be discussed online, would you believe? Okay, yes, you read that right, or heard that right, because of course nothing solves a problem better than another layer of bureaucracy. So this document is, look, there was an article on the media, and I want to go through just the first couple of paragraphs. Well, look, okay, so the first one is this. The reason why they're doing it is calling for a new modern approach which puts the emphasis on the safety of children, young people, and vulnerable groups from illegal and unsafe content. So this is the first paragraph in this media article on the News Hub. And I just repeat that again. That puts the emphasis on the safety of children and young people. So my first thought around that, Dieuwe, is this. Safety for children and young people. Hello, audience. If you're giving your children and young people access to the internet with their phones or whatever you're doing, then stop, because that's where you draw the line around safety. Okay, so we've got this all wrong. Here we are regulating adults from using the internet and from working out what they know is safe and unsafe. And they're talking about the emphasis is about children. Why are children online? Why are children given so much access to online data, online information?
And what are they?
Okay,
what is the harmful content? Here. What is the harmful content online that young people are accessing? Is it a lot of this LGBT propaganda? I mean, it is the month of June in the United States, and everybody knows that we're going to be bombarded with propaganda online for this whole month. Right? That's when these children are being let online, when their parents aren't paying attention, when they are being negligent and letting their children go online. Most of the harmful propaganda that they are, or harmful material that they're accessing, is heavily left-wing, progressive LGBT propaganda. Those are the harmful things they are absorbing, and those are not the kinds of things that they're talking about regulating.
No, absolutely not. So talking about it being things that from illegal and unsafe content, well, yes, I agree with you, Dieuwe, and a lot of that gender stuff is unsafe content. They are, there's manipulation going on, there's conversion, predatory type stuff going on. But, that in this paragraph, it also goes on to say young people and vulnerable groups. Who are vulnerable groups? And if you're in a vulnerable
the people
group,
we just
Dieuwe,
described.
but if you're that person in a vulnerable group, why do you want to go and read about stuff that people are saying about you because they have a different view? I mean, manage yourself. Where do we? Why are we not teaching people self-management? If you don't like something, if I know people are talking about me, I'm not going to go and read their, which they probably are, by the way. I'm not going to go onto a rainbow group and read all the comments that they say about me. I don't need to know. I don't care what they think about me. And so, this is ridiculous. We're this nanny thing where we're regulating content online for vulnerable groups. Okay, now that's one thing.
They want total control, right? That's what they have. They want total control over what you can do, total control over society, and that's what happens, with a more disorganized society. They create a more chaotic society. That chaotic society has to be more restricted, and they create both the chaos and then they create the restrictions that work in their favor. And this is an endless cycle that they will keep repeating.
Yeah. Good. And look, okay, so the very next paragraph, this is what it reads. The proposed reforms were announced by Te Tari Tai Whenua. And I'm thinking, who's that? And then I read on a little bit further, Department of Internal Affairs. I'm like, whoa, I mean, this is a big issue that we're talking about in the communities right now about the use of I've got no issue with te reo in schools, but when you're out in society where a majority of people have no idea how to speak te reo or what the words are, I don't understand. Like I said, I read that and I thought, who is this person, Te Tari Ta Whenua? But it's actually the name of the department. And, I wouldn't even know what half the names were.
They create obscurity for these government departments, so nobody knows what they mean. People don't realize what's going on. Yeah. People give up. And that's, I refer to this on my blog as te reo of failure, the language of failure. Basically, they try and people are only going to associate these terms negatively because they're associated with the government. So again, it's part of this chaotic cycle that they're trying to create because it'll give them more control.
I'll carry on, but I've just noticed that we're getting quite a large volume. So if we go through some of these now so that we don't miss any really good stuff. There's things there about other parties. I'll touch on that shortly. Let's do this first, what we're, the topic that we're talking about. Hello from Waimate. That's Margaret. Thanks, Margaret. Great to see you. Where are we? This one, we've got Sue. We already have censorship laws. It's a smokescreen, a new layer of non-elected democratic governance. Who decides? It's a slippery slope run by thought police. Absolutely, 100% spot on. We've got Charmaine. They are creating a demonic cycle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, there's some issues, that's for sure. Cherie, does this law mean we will no longer be able to access sermons, interesting, on YouTube that may be commenting on current social issues? That's a really good point. What do you think about that, Dieuwe?
So there's a big focus there from the regulatory bodies they want to set up to regulate what's on social media. But at the moment, the takedown requests that, for instance, Facebook is taking from the New Zealand government are very, very low. So Thomas Cranmer on Twitter today posted of the last 50 requests that the government has put in to Facebook, only one of them has been followed through on in terms of takedown requests. So they want to regulate these international social media companies, but from within New Zealand, do these companies care about New Zealand? These YouTube's policies are far more harmful in that sense, where YouTube may take content down because it's against their particular policy, and maybe platforms like YouTube will be more friendly towards the New Zealand government, whereas platforms like Facebook are not. Hard to tell. The main impact will be on regulating organizations, groups, blogs, even that run in New Zealand. So anyone who has a following of, I believe these proposals here put the reach at about 20,000 people. So if you've got a readership of 20,000 people, 20,000 followers or something, you would then be regulated by this body. You would then have to abide by these codes, these standards that these left-wing organizations will create. And that will include blogs, it'll include Substack accounts, it'll probably include Facebook accounts that are run from within New Zealand, YouTube accounts that are run from within New Zealand. And they could be regulated, they could be shut down or have content censored, take down notices, content that they would have to legally remove. They would have to censor themselves, or you get the police knocking on your door. That's the objective, censorship within New Zealand. And I just see a comments popped in here from Sue. Yes, so news outlets like The Platform and Reality Check Radio, and blogs like the BFD, they're the target, right-wing content, any non-left-wing content creation is the target.
Well, so it makes sense because, sorry.
Yes, currently they exist outside the broadcasting standards, right? The Platform and Reality Check Radio don't have to abide by these standards because they just broadcast over the internet. So if they can pick up these regulations, it's going to be to take down Sean Plunkett. It's going to be to take down Rodney Hyde and all the other people at Reality Check Radio.
Well, is it also because of the fact that mainstream media, I mean, most people now, I don't know the stats, but there's, hardly anybody actually watching mainstream media. They are all choosing to go onto these various alternative platforms because they know that they're getting more balanced, information instead of that one source, lefty.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, unfortunately, the viewership numbers for mainstream media are still too high. They still have a very big impact on our elections. So without mainstream media coverage, it's really hard to get any response here in New Zealand. So we found so far. But obviously, they want to cripple the growth of any kind of alternative. Because if you can just use the Platform, Reality Check Radio, if you can use YouTube or Facebook, and that's enough to get you across the line in a New Zealand election without needing any input from the media, well, then that's suddenly a very big threat to the government and to the media, to the established class. The ruling class will not be happy with that outcome, and that's something they want to prevent.
Well, clearly they'll be watching them, and listening, because I know that for 4 years now, and most people watching will know about the reason I got involved with New Conservative and trying to get that out in the community, that I've been challenging. Obviously, mainstream media don't touch it, and that's 4 years worth. And yet, all of a sudden, I've been interviewed on Reality Check Radio twice already around this, and people are starting to, I'm holding a lot of meetings. So clearly, people want to know, and this is their right as well as citizens. This is what media is supposed to be, right? The press, the watchdog.
That's right.
I mean, who
wants to interview you? Who will interview you, right? It's Sean Plunkett from the Platform. It's people at Reality Check Radio who will publish your press releases. It's the people at the BFD. The mainstream media won't touch it. And so if they grow, if they're unregulated, if they can't be brought to heel, then somebody like you could become a real threat.
Yeah, exactly. Therese has also said, I don't know much about Rumble. Was it Rumble? I have no idea what
it's
Rumble
called
is.
Rumble. I believe it's run out of the UK, actually. But yeah, sorry, not Rumble. That's the one's from Canada. But yeah, it's not directly related to New Zealand. I don't use it very much either, sorry, but I do know that it's fairly popular.
Yeah. Tari, I can't read. I'm afraid that I can't read Te Reo, but it looks beautiful.
I think it's from the Bible behind me there. That's the Paipera Tapu, which I believe he's quoting from, but I can't quite identify what it is.
Okay, well, that's really nice.
Maori is not that good.
Yeah, and like I was just saying, Māori language is a beautiful language, and when we've always been teaching Te Reo in the classroom, obviously to a lesser degree than what that statement is. So it's not something that's new. We've always been doing it, but clearly I cannot speak fluently, obviously.
On that subject, it is an issue that's been in the news recently, and it's probably not really a big campaign issue for us, but it is part of New Zealand's history. It is part of our heritage. The written Maori language comes from the missionaries who wrote it down to translate the Bible, and that's where they worked from. Behind me there, that's the first book that was ever published in Te Reo. It is a really important part of New Zealand. But obviously, it's being weaponized in the culture war, basically. It's being used, unfortunately, in a very manipulative way. And yeah, I guess in some kind of controversial sense, talking about New Conservative in this way, you have the Maori Party, obviously, who advocate very strongly for their people and the rights of their people and their heritage and their traditions. And while a lot of people on the right may not like them very much, this is the kind of thing that New Zealand's political system enables. So we have a very minoritarian political system that can give power to minorities. And so the Maori Party is able to take advantage of that really well. The Green Party takes advantage of that really well. And unfortunately, we don't have any conservative bloc that's taking advantage of that fully, right? And that's really what New Conservative needs to do. And that's really what we want to do. That's what we're aiming to do, is to give actual representation and power to conservatives in New Zealand, social conservatives. There are enough of us to get across the line at 5%. About 30% of New Zealand identifies themselves as being socially conservative. If we can capture 1 in 5, then that means that we can have real power if we want to use it, because minority groups in New Zealand's parliament can wield a disproportionate amount of power. And people may not like it, but that's the system that we have, and that's the system that we can take advantage of. So
we'll go on that line. We'll go back to a couple of the comments made, and within these comments, I'm just going to change my glasses because I can't. Those ones are useless for reading. Within those comments, Dieuwe, don't laugh. When you get older, you'll know what I'm talking about.
That's right.
There's talk here about the joining up with other parties, and I'd like you to talk about the fact, because we've had this conversation over and over with our board and others around the fact that, yes, what is conservative? And when you're looking at these people who are asking us, why aren't we joining with this party? Why aren't we joining with that? I'd really like you to address it. So Tim has asked, why is New Zealand? You mean, I think he means New
Conservative. Yeah.
Not joining with Freedom's New Zealand. And hang on, just before we address that one, then you've got Sue, I think you can have freedom or freedom's sake, but it needs to be woven together with conservative values, hence conservative. So I'd like you to address that, because then Tim has said that's a no answer. Let's go there.
Why are we here? What are we trying to achieve? And as I said, it's putting conservative MPs into Parliament, and we want our values represented in Parliament. And a problem that we have with existing parties in Parliament is that you can give your party vote to those parties, and you may get a Liberal MP, you may get somebody who hates you, you may get somebody whose values are completely opposite to your own. And that's effectively the strategy that's trying to be employed by Freedom's NZ, and that you have people who are from all over the place. And if you're voting for them, you can't be sure that you're going to get someone who actually wants to represent you at the end of the day for your votes. And you have people who how do we say it? Don't get along very, very well. People who are not very well, not particularly popular. People with very high unfavorability ratings in New Zealand, and you need to get like 5% of the electorate together. And can you get 5% of the electorate to can you convince them to give power to someone like Brian Tamaki or to somebody like Sue Gray? When even I think I saw today, there's no complete commitment from her suddenly as to whether or not she's in or out. And so this type of clown car politics doesn't really work at all. So you can't just throw everyone together and expect that people will take you seriously. The electorate has to be able to take you seriously. And so this is something that we did look at this. We did look at this very seriously. And at the end of the day, it simply cannot work. And we are obviously having to look at something that can be taken far more seriously.
You're so right. And, we added up all the numbers of previous elections, and none of those parties altogether, every small party still would not get anywhere near the 5%. But what you said is crucial around the general public. So it's not just all those people, all their followers and ours that are going to, create that 5%. We have to, have more of the public. And with all that theatricals that goes on, the general public are not interested in that, and there's chaos there, and it's really messy. And who wants that? Who wants to bring that to Parliament?
Voters are very, 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 very fickle, and they're very cautious with who they give power to, and so they want to see that you're serious. They want to be able to. They
also want common sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Solid. can't
Yeah.
read a shot thing. Somebody's trying to get rid of me offline.
Yeah, so you were lagging a little bit for me there.
But look,
anyway.
it's also
and there were some
around,
other questions. I think I can address
that.
these other questions at the same time as well. For instance, somebody here asking about other parties as well, like Democracy New Zealand. We've talked with them. They're just not interested. And so we'll see if we can work in electorates together, because the big thing for us is the party vote. We need to get 5% of the party vote, and if we can build that socially conservative coalition here, we can get across the line. And ultimately, these votes are not wasted, because, like I said, if you're voting for an existing party and you're going to be getting an MP who hates you, that's even worse than not having your vote counted. But if you are willing to commit, and I'm committing long term to this, I'm still here for after 2 elections. I'm committing here for the long term. Invest in us with your vote, carry it across into future elections. Right? What happens if people don't get across the line this time? Right? Where do these parties go? What's the point of them? If you're faced on some current issues that a certain part of New Zealand is very angry about, what if that dissipates? What's your reason for existing? Can you carry that through to 2026? What does that look like? What does 2029 look like? What does 2032 look like? And for me, I'm still going to be here. We're still going to be here, and that's where we are asking for your votes and for your support to carry that through with us, that we can build these numbers up. Of course, things can move very quickly in politics, right? Like just overnight, you can have something big that happen that will push you ahead, and that will boost you up across the threshold. But what if it doesn't happen? And we're ready, we're committed, and we're able to build these numbers up. And that's we have to be prepared to do the hard work, and to be in this for the long haul, and to look at a strategy that works across multiple electoral cycles.
Hard work is what it's about. I mean, New Zealanders aren't going to vote for someone who's not actually out there doing hard work. I don't know if it's my connection or yours, but if I'm cutting, and I apologise, but I can't hear you at the moment, so I'll just keep going.
You do that. I can't hear you very well either.
At least we can in longevity. You show, like said, we're over there, we will knock you. I'm in, whole not the 2023 election. A few of us, appreciate it. Somebody asked about hiring in New Zealand. That's
cool. Hello. Sorry. Okay. People are saying it's you that's lagging. So I've just asked.
Right.
I can't hear you very well.
So I might just let you pay for the rest of the station.
Great. Okay, I've got the floor all to myself now, and we'll let Helen sort that out. That's fine. Thank you. And thank you for the comment there, Charmaine, about New Zealand's policy. I mean, one of our core, that was my core motivation for getting involved in politics, was looking at New Zealand's abortion legislation and saying, well, look, the foundational right that anybody can have is the right to life. How we treat the most vulnerable people in our society, that sets the bar for how we build everything else. So when we're talking about human rights, when we're talking about the basic respect for life, from whether it be babies in the womb, or whether it be elderly people who are sick, who are dying, how we respect life is really the core part of the conservative ideal, how we think about things. Because we're not just individuals who live here by ourselves. We have we live life in a continuous stream from our ancestors through to our descendants. We have our parents, our grandparents. We carry their hopes and their dreams and their aims. We carry the things they've built forward with us, and we pass those things on to our children and to our grandchildren. And that's really the core of why we do what we do. And a lot of individualistic thinking loses that. People sort of give up, and it's just them, and there's nothing bigger than themselves. And that sets the foundation for a lot of our other principles, especially around being able for people to live their traditions, for people being able to conserve their values, restoring the things that are broken in New Zealand. People can think back to the days when things were a lot more positive. When they felt a little bit more joy, things were looking more hopeful. Right now, you go out there and you talk to people, and it's all bleak. The future is uncertain. There's a lot of anger and resentment out there, and we can present them with a vision that is far more hopeful. It's far more joyful. So, hey, what do you want? You want your grandchildren to be happy. You want pictures of smiling children. That's what you want to see. That's what the future should look like. And that's the kind of vision we want to bring to New Zealand's future.
100%, Dieuwe. It's really important for our young people. I've been talking a lot lately in different interviews around the anxiety and depression around our young people, and it is because we've got far too many messages around, sensationalizing climate catastrophizing, for example, and other worldly issues that are concerning. And I know down here in Christchurch, we've actually been through some pretty tough stuff, with the earthquakes 10 years ago, terrorist and all of that. But and so we do have quite a large cohort of children who are probably suffering, and we're seeing the outcome of that in the school system. But look, we know too that life changes. Life is all about change. Okay. The climate changes, we change, relationships change, and we used to teach about change all the time, and it's about being resilient. There's not enough resilience anymore. It's like I had an interview this morning with Reality Check Radio, and we're talking about this whole pride stuff that's come in, and last year how one principal made the decision only to fly the flag one day, and then a few of the students got really upset about that, saying, well, they felt excluded. Well, and yet it's like, well, you've actually, you've flown the flag for a day. What are we setting up people, our young people, with, where they feel that their only self-worth comes from everybody else, affirming them and lifting them up in that sense? What are we doing?
That's what they say. Everybody's welcome, right? It's inclusive. Everyone is welcome, except for just normal people, right? If you want to be normal, if you want to live the values and the traditions of your ancestors, then you're not welcome. They don't want you, and yet that's how you're best set up for the resilience. That's how you are able to live life very optimistically, because you're able to carry forward this hope and these dreams. You're able to carry forward the things that have been built and passed down. You're able to enjoy the things of the past. And instead, the young people get the misery of completely deconstructing and destroying everything in the past. Everything in the past is horrible. It was all bad. Everything that's bad today is bad because things in the past were bad. And then everything in the future is going to be bad because everybody's going to die in 10 years, when the ice caps melt and whatever other garbage that these poor kids get sold, right? It is the death cult. That's often what I call them, a death cult. That's really what it feels like. And the more you read about them, what they believe, and it is actually just very, very sad to go through and read the social media feeds of some of these left-wing people, especially the younger ones. It's just all very sad and depressing, and in terms of what they've been told. And of course, you go to the right-wing ones, and we're all super happy and posting memes and making fun of everything. So we want to put the joy back in into the country's future.
So when we're talking about this whole proposition about the regulated of platforms, how about we'll definitely need some regulation for those left-wing people who are doom and gloom and talking about the end of the world and leave us alone. But we know that's not going to happen.
But we shouldn't be afraid to talk about it. This is an opportunity that we have, that Labour, that National and ACT don't have, because you also have a question, well, why us? Why not National or ACT, for whatever reason? And see, they're fully committed to these liberal ideas. They're fully committed to value neutrality. We can say, what their ideas, these things, these left-wing ideas, they are harmful. It's not just whatever you want, whatever people say, do whatever you want, it makes you happy. The point is that it makes these people miserable. It makes them sad, and we shouldn't be afraid to say, what we do need to see them. We do need to see them defeated. We do need to go up against this, and we do need to destroy it somehow. However that's done, we don't know yet. But we have to start somewhere. And a far more I guess, easy subject where we do know we have good solutions on are issues like crime running rampant. How do you deal with these gangs that are running around terrorizing people in the streets? How do you deal with ram raiders and so on? And you have to crack down hard. You have to go and put the real fear into them. They need to know who's in charge. They need to know where the real power lies, and they will fall in line, and things will improve drastically. So things like using New Zealand's existing anti-terror legislation against the gangs, if they terrorize innocent people, is a very straightforward solution. Doesn't even require any existing legislation. It just requires somebody with the political will to say to the gangs, you terrorize people, we bring down the anti-terror task force on you. Very simple, all just based on existing legislation. And obviously we can do things like making people responsible, or making parents responsible for the crimes of some of their young children. If you've got 12-year-olds ram raiding dairies, sure, you can send them off to some boot camp somewhere, but it makes a much bigger impact on the country if you are willing to take a more illiberal solution, like making their parents pay for the damage that they've done. Bring them into court, give them the fines. So these are the kinds of things that we can say that many of these other that the liberal sort of right-wingish parties simply can't say. They can't go there.
Yeah. So we've got an interesting comment here, and I'd like to kind of touch on that a little bit. How does the young soul breathe when all they can inhale is polluted air? So I look at that around what we're feeding them through media, to be honest. I know that that's probably not what Tari, and I'm not sure if I even pronounced your name correctly, so I apologise there, is meaning, because I know that New Zealand, we have got pretty awesome air here, and it's pretty clean country, really, compared to some of the polluted air out there from the big polluters like China and, the big names. So I'm looking at it, yeah, good one. I'm looking at it more around the pollution of the media and social social media as well as our mainstream media. That to me is pollution, right? All of those, like we talked about before, what our young people are actually, what they are getting infiltrated with, all that information coming at them all the time about what their identity is, and what they should look like and what they should be doing, and all of that. That's pollution to me. And I think that's where it's up to the adults just to share that joy, and to share, and to get them off the internet, get them outside and see the beauty in nature.
You touch grass.
Sound a bit left-wingy there. yeah. Hug a tree. Okay.
Yeah,
but I'm all about that as a mother. I got my boys, I think they're maybe 9 years old when I brought a boxing bag, and then I brought a gym, a home gym, because boys, and not just boys, I use the gym as well. I did a bit of bodybuilding. I bet you half of these people who have got identity issues aren't in the gym. They're not playing sports. They're not. They're not in a sports team.
We go to the gym. Yeah, that's right-wing propaganda. Go to the gym. Number one piece of right-wing propaganda advice. I've got young kids who are at school. Like we're making sacrifices to put them through a private Christian school. To be really invested in their education. We make give them good materials. What books are they reading? We're finding these good old books that we had growing up, or some of the classics. Start getting them reading. Read the Bible to them, read The Hobbit, J.R. Tolkien, The Hobbit, and also C.S. Lewis. Been reading Narnia to the children. Let them. There's a few, and there's still a few good kids shows out there. Right? Don't give them YouTube. And unfortunately, I see that. I think in whatever, even conservative circles, they just, unfortunately, not enough care is being taken to make sure that these young children have really positive things to enjoy and to watch, and make sure in terms of the media they're consuming, and then just a little bit of it. Some people might say none at all, but just a little bit of it, and then send them outside. Play outside. If it's raining, play inside. Lego. My kids love playing with Lego. Toy swords, toy bows and arrows, something dangerous. Let them fight it out. It's really enjoyable, and play board games with them. I've got my old miniature collections from when I was a teenage nerd, and just get out the little miniatures and line them all up, and the kids love playing with them. Pitch the armies.
Monopoly's a good one.
Monopoly is a good place to start. And you'd be surprised as to how quickly they pick up these games. I'm surprised. My son, who's like 7 years old, even just playing strategy games together, he's way better than I was at that age. And spend time with them, enjoy it. If you can, make sure your grandparents are around. I see there's a grandmother in the chat here. Spend lots of time with the grandparents. Try not to be so atomized. A lot of consumer society is focused on atomization. People unfortunately move far away from their traditional support structures, their extended family. Like, if it's at all possible, make sure you're somewhat close to your family. That's really, really important. And it's hard. Unfortunately, the government has made things very, very hard. Corporations have made things very, very hard. Woke capital likes it when people are atomized and destroyed and fed all of this terrible propaganda. You're going to have to put in some effort to fight back against it, but you're going to enjoy it. It's going to make you happy. It's worth it.
Yeah.
And politically, we'll see if we can help you with that. When we get into Parliament, we'll be able to destroy some of these bad things, and we'll be able to improve the country. Until then, you're able to put in the effort yourself, and you're able to support us. Make sure you do what you can, we will look after you. You look after us, and we'll look after you. There has to be a case where we will stand up for our people, and we will deliver actual solutions for you.
Absolutely. We do have lots of good solutions. And I noticed there's some people with comments around what we're talking about. Cherie, causes too many fights. Well, maybe that's part of the problem. There's not enough monopoly happening, because then we're not teaching children how we deal with that conflict, right? It's all part of it. And Cherie's Twister is a good game. Yeah. Lots of good games out there. I liked Cherie's comment too around books. Reading is so important. And, even like not just your child reading, but you reading to them. They absolutely love it. Even the older students, I would read to them, and they really did just enjoy sitting back. It's relaxing, nothing stressful about it. Like you said before, Dieuwe, we were talking about some really hard out right-wing stuff here. And I'm thinking about, instead of the Labour's idea of telling people have less showers, here we go. We've gone from the kindergarten teacher telling everybody to be kind and wash your hands, now to telling us how to have a shower. If you are in there but too long, that's how you can save some money, Dieuwe. These are the solutions that Labour bring to you. What would you prefer, those ones, or the really hard out solutions that Dieuwe and I have been talking about? Traditional things that work, things that are fun as well. Like you talked about what you would do. Because I had sons and I did have to raise them on my own, I had to do a lot of wrestling with them because I had to try and play both roles, right? They loved it. We would be watching those wrestling channels. I don't even remember what they're called now, but I took them to one of the big wrestling things. And it wasn't until they turned 13 and I thought that was it. No more wrestling, because that's when the testosterone, I couldn't cope with it anymore. It's like I used to throw them around, and then they started throwing me around. I thought, no more. That's done.
Yeah, so you discovered that.
Yeah. So hey, a really good comment. Yeah. Oh, okay. Look, I know that I'm overly still cutting out. Cherie, I did a paper on human geography, which discussed how people are encouraged to move countries to break the attachment to one's country of origin and to create a global workforce with traditional bonds broken. I might have missed that one there.
Yeah. That's globalism, right? That's what we're talking about, and that's what causes this real detachment among people. The atomized society, so that you can be, the labor, the workforce. That's all they care about is are you churning out GDP? Are you crunching? Are you crunching out numbers in the spreadsheet for them? That's That's how they view people. And what's far more important is the human connection. That's not just about the money.
Good. So before we do go, if you've got any more questions, throw them up. Otherwise, we will be finishing up at 8:30. So we've got 10 minutes. Now, Dieuwe, I was going to share a little bit of a clip, but I think I'll save that for during the week. But I'll just let everybody know that I had an interview with a 15-year-old student over the weekend. And part of that interview is also going to be embedded in the reality check radio interview around the Pride Week that will be aired on Wednesday. So it'd be really good if you are tuning into that. And after that, I'm going to upload that interview on our Facebook page. So you'll be able to listen to this very bright, articulate, young 15-year-old who has got a lot more common sense than some of the adults that are teaching him, unfortunately. But it's very revealing on what's happening in schools from a student's perspective. I really wanted to give him a voice so that we're listening to what they think is impacting them, not just about what we see as concerned adults, but his voice. So you'll hear a lot about what his thoughts are. Yes, Dieuwe.
I saw the numbers released in the USA today that an increasing number of young boys at school are right wing. So there is a divergence taking place where these young men are being alienated by this gynocratic system in their schools and all of the LGBT propaganda, and they're actually becoming more right wing because they're realizing that their dissent against the system is required, otherwise it will destroy them. There's some hope.
Yeah, I have to touch on that. So one thing he did talk to me about, which isn't in the interview, is he's really concerned, as they all are, the boys, about the male, the attack on their masculinity. So what he told me was that in school, get this, in school, he's in a boys' high school, they are allowed to wear nail polish, the boys, but they're not allowed to have facial hair.
Yeah.
No, you'd be no good there, Dieuwe. But no facial hair, but they can have nail polish.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the?
Yeah, and that's all it is. It's an attack on men. Absolutely, the case. But that's the good news is that all of the men that we get out of it will be right wing, because the ones that don't make it won't be men anymore.
And just on touching on your right wing, left wing thing. Okay, so this is my theory. My theory is, and I don't know if I should admit this, but I did vote left for Labour when I was younger. Okay, I voted a lot for Labour when I was younger. Now I've had a lot of conversations with people, and they've told me, like I've talked to guys in their mid-30s, for example, and some of them have said that they also voted Labour when they were younger, but when they grow up, when they started having a family, is when they realised actually that they are conservative, that they are more, into that traditional. And so I don't know if it's so much left or right, but it's actually more about maturity. Do you think that's
it is in many ways, yes. And so what's actually one of the reasons why the family has come under such attack, and another reason why even houses are so expensive, is that this disrupts family formation. If people can't get married, if they can't buy a house, if they feel like they can't have kids or afford to have kids, afford to have this life, afford that stability, then they'll never grow up. They'll never become right wing because they don't grow up. So that's where a lot of these attacks on the family come from as well, in terms of destabilizing family formation, because then people can be children forever, and that means they can vote left wing forever. And that's a big problem that we have to solve as well. If there are enough of us left to get 5-6% of the vote, eventually we can solve the problem. But until then, it's very, very hard for young people to form families, and they really have to make sacrifices for it. They have to want it. So it's an uphill battle. But I think people who are there, who understand it, young people who are my age, who are having families, trying to buy houses, they understand this. They make the sacrifices for it because they believe in it. But for it to be stabilizing for the entire country, the entire society and culture to stabilize, it has to be something that's easy, because there's only ever a minority will go for the things that are hard to do because they believe it to be right.
Mm. And the last statement I'm going to make before we do say goodnight. There was a fair bit of questions at the beginning where they asked about those other parties, and you have covered that. But I just want to mention too that it matters to me who's leading, who's in Parliament representing, serving us. And I was never interested in politics before. And so for me to be involved is because I don't believe that they're doing a good job. In fact, I think there should be less government involved in our lives. But to me, there's no way that I would be interested in bringing to Parliament somebody who is so liberal that they're going to then get to Parliament with us and then vote and then go and move over to Labour and the Greens. Why would you do that? It makes no sense. So when you're thinking about certain people out there, and there's names out there, that you're wondering why we're not joining, I don't have to even say the names, but why would we do that? It's just makes no sense. So hopefully that will shut down those conversations, because we're going to continue. We're in it for the long haul. We are solid. We are sensible. We are calm. And we've got great solutions. So hopefully you're going to vote for New Conservative. Jump on board. Tell your friends. Helps us set up meetings wherever you are, and we'll come and talk out there. So thanks for joining us.
Questions. Thank you for joining us. That's right. There were some questions about meetings earlier on as well. There is a public meeting in Tauranga tomorrow. The event page is on New Conservative's Facebook page. And I believe you have several more public meetings planned for now, or is there some other?
Yes, there's one in Hallswell. One on Hallswell on the 21st of June. It's a Wednesday evening, so that's down here in Christchurch in Hallswell. Hopefully you can all get along to that, and we're going to be updating the events page. I'm in Auckland twice this month. There's a public meeting, what night? 13th of June, but we'll put that on our page as well. So hopefully
we are ramping things up in preparation for the campaign. The regulated period starts in about 6 weeks. Things are happening behind the scenes. Some of it's being kept secret because we don't want people stealing all our best ideas. But things are looking up for the election campaign, and we really need your help and your support to make this happen, make this the best campaign that it can be.
Absolutely. So I think what you're asking there is for some donations, maybe as well, Dieuwe.
Absolutely. Put your money where your mouth is. Go to the New Conservative website, nc.org.nz. Donate to Helen's campaign, especially. I mean, she's campaigning full time, and really, it makes a big difference. These donations make a big difference, and I'm having fun, having a great time, and we really, really need more people to join us.
Absolutely. It is fun. It's a fun party. And I do thank those who are watching now who have already donated. Do you know, I was talking to a 17-year-old who's donating to me, and he's still in high school. Can you believe that? This is how much they have faith in us. So, it's fantastic. Thank you for joining us tonight, audience. We look forward to seeing you same time, same bat channel next week. I won't tell you who's on. I'll let you know later in the week. So thank you, Dieuwe, for being with us tonight. I'm sure you'll join us again another time.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. And thank you to everyone for their questions. I was expecting to come here to talk about like policy and stuff, but I think it was actually just great to get questions and comments about life in general. And I think the vision that we have, the way that we think about life and about society are probably actually just more important than just the policy. What people want to see is a beautiful vision for the future, and the nitty-gritty, the little tiny details, we can sort those out later.
Absolutely, because we do have those solutions. Good night, everyone.
Good night.